All right. Good evening and welcome to the council meeting of the 30th of September 2019. We are using Facebook live streaming on Facebook Live. There's no live interaction, but you may leave comments. The most up-to-date meeting package is on the Town of Kentville website. This meeting is called to order. Have all of the councillors received and reviewed their meeting packages? Does any member of council have information pertaining to a matter before this council which has not been publicly circulated? I will remind members of council that we are in decision-making mode and we should be mindful of our decision-making wheel. We have committed to making balanced and respectful decisions and adhering to a code of conduct. We will be voting by electronic ballot on all matters except administrative. Please do not vote prior to the display of members. When the vote is input, the name of the member will change shading, indicating that the member has voted. The vote may be changed any time throughout the voting period, and I am reminded that I should have 3 steamboats. Select green for yes, red for no, and you may select yellow to abstain, but your vote will be counted as a negative vote. The chair will call the voting closed, and the secretary will close the voting, displaying the results. The chair will then report the outcome of the vote. Are there any conflict of interest issues we should be aware of before this meeting commences? Acting Councillor Andrew, please.
I have a question. There is a motion with a matter that I'm in conflict of, and if I'm reading the motions, should someone else read that recommendation?
Solicitor, can I defer that to you?
You're not reading any.
Okay, you're just reading the recommendations and reports.
Oh, okay. So
So
I'm not
you-
reading that.
No.
No,
Okay.
no, so you're good.
Oh, okay.
You're good.
All right.
All right.
Sorry.
Thank you. No, that's good. Thank you. All right, Acting CAO Kroll, could you please take the roll call?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. It's my pleasure to announce that all members of council are present this evening, as Solicitor Mattard is to my left and Recording Secretary West to my right. We're all here.
Thank you. Thank you. You have before you the proposed agenda. Are there any additions or deletions? If I could. Thank you. And the seconder? Thank you. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We have several sets of minutes. So you have the minutes from the July 29th, 2019 council meeting have been distributed. Are there any errors or omissions with those minutes? If not, if no error, the minutes are approved as distributed. If yes, the recording secretary will annotate the minutes in red, and the annotated minutes will be added to the electronic meeting file as approved. Are there any errors? Nope. All right, you also have the minutes of the August 16th, 2019 special council meeting. Are there any errors or omissions in those minutes? Moving on, thank you. Minutes of the September 9th, 2019 special council meeting have been distributed. Now, you may not have had those until late this afternoon. Are there any errors or omissions in those minutes? No, moving on. All right, the last set, the minutes of the September 25th, 2019 special council meeting have been distributed. Are there any errors or omissions with these minutes? And again, these ones were a late addition. Very short, though. Thank you. Moving on. All right, we have business arising or unfinished business. So we do have unfinished business. We have a move or a request to rescind a decision that was made on July 17th. So council met on July 17th, 2019 at a special council meeting to discuss a public engagement process for unique properties within the town boundaries, including 118 Oakdean Avenue. Due to the sensitive legal nature of the meeting, it was conducted in a closed session. During this meeting, Council directed the CAO to direct planning staff to formulate a process to gather feedback from citizens for the development of the property at 118 Oak Dean using a third party. All members of Council present were in favor of this process. A call for expressions of interest for a consultant to lead a public engagement process associated with the 118 Oak Dean was posted on the town's website and the provincial procurement site with a closing date of August 30th. After this posting, Council and staff had more discussions about this engagement process. And at the CAC, the Director of Planning requested confirmation of alignment. But because our decision was made at a council meeting, it could not be nullified by a CAC meeting. So for that reason, it has to come to council meeting. And because it was a decision that we made at a meeting, it has to first have a motion to rescind that decision, and then we vote on the decision again. So if I could have a motion to rescind the decision relating to the public consultation process taken during the closed session on the 18th of July. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that Council rescind the decision relating to the public consultation process taken during the closed session of the 18th of July 2019. Is there any discussion? Before we move to question, I would like to say that this council did take a unanimous decision to direct staff to conduct a public consultation process by a third-party consultant to determine what type of development would be suitable for the property at 118 Oak Dean. This process was also to be used for other special or unique properties. This was meant to be an open and transparent process without prejudice to any party or citizen to determine the best use of a property which did not conform to established zoning criteria. The owners of the property have presented their development plan, which is not supported by the citizens of the neighborhood, and the density and mix is not supported by any member of this council around the table or the planning department. A development agreement would be the only avenue we have as a council to ensure that the right mix of residential housing is built on any unique property. The consultation provides all Kentville residents a say on what type and density of development goes on a property, something that is right for the neighborhood, that meets the intent of our provincial statement of interest on housing, and provides residential stock for people who are in the rental market. We are voting on rescinding a decision we made to hold a meeting. I ask you to please defeat this motion. Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to rescind the decision relating to the public consultation process taken during the closed session of the 18th of July 2019. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. So we move on to the public consultation process, support for.
So, Your Worship,
Certainly.
just from a procedural perspective, if no motion came forward at this point, then there wouldn't be any direction from council to staff on any aspect of this. It's unclear to me whether or not this was still seen to be a staff-driven, whether this was seen to be a staff-driven project. But I believe that Ms. Gentleman was asking at CAC for the input of council as to whether council wanted to move it forward.
Certainly.
So she was looking for a response to that inquiry, as I recall. But that doesn't mean there must be a resolution coming forward from council.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. So if I understand you correctly, Solicitor Matart, you're saying the fact that we had a motion to rescind doesn't necessarily mean it needs to come before council again, but it still can to review the public engagement process, to vote on that.
Yeah. If, without a motion coming forward, there is no direction from council to staff. Beverly Gentleman has requested, the mayor could refer to the to her report to CAC, but my recollection is that Beverly Gentleman has requested input from council. But without input from council, then it's as if that prior direction didn't happen.
So if I could paraphrase, Solicitor, what you're saying is that because we have chosen to rescind the motion or rescind our decision, it ends here.
That's right.
Okay,
Unless it's staff-driven and you want to
Okay.
specifically direct staff not to take any further action on it. I'm not clear about the genesis
Okay.
of the.
so is there any
process.
desire to make a motion to support the public consultation process? If there's no desire to make a motion, then this process is done and over with. Deputy Mayor.
I'm still confused.
Okay.
I'm confused because there was a special council meeting to direct staff to carry out an RFP, to find a facilitator, to hold a public participation meeting. That motion, essentially, that was made and defeated at the last CAC meeting,
That didn't count.
that's what I'm saying, it
Okay.
didn't count. So if it didn't count, there should still be a motion there.
No,
So,
because you
but
ju-
I'll
you
leave that
just-
to the rest of council if somebody wants to make a motion, I guess. I'm not following.
No,
Maybe it's
the-
just me.
The decision that you've just rescinded the prior direction to staff, so now staff have no direction from council to do anything to move it forward. So without that instruction, I suspect that Beverly Gentleman will take that as a sign of a lack of support without necessarily having expressed lack of support. She doesn't have the support of council if no resolution comes forward.
Deputy Mayor, does that? Councillor Maxwell.
I'd like to give specific direction to staff, that this council, I would like to make a motion that this council does not support a public consultation meeting
So you-
on 118 Oakdean Avenue or any other strangely formed lands in the town of Kentville.
So you wish to make a negative?
That to give her direction that we do not support that. Yes.
Solicitor, did you have something? I saw you lean forward.
I was leaning forward to make a note.
Okay, sorry.
But my comment on that would be that if you choose to entertain a negative motion on it, that it should be limited to this address, since you don't have anything before you that would indicate what else it might apply to.
Okay. So no public consultation meeting on 118 Oakdean Avenue.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Andrew?
I think the solicitor addressed my kind of line of questioning.
I'm sorry,
It-
I will point of order because you have a motion and it wasn't seconded and then it put open for discussion.
Okay, yes,
Sure.
you're correct. Sorry about that. Okay, so we have a negative motion to not support the public consultation process for 118 Oakdean property by a third-party consultant. Is that correct?
No. To direct Beverly Gentleman, our planning director, that this council does not support a public consultation meeting on 118 Oakdean Avenue.
Motions don't direct staff. You direct the CAO to direct staff.
Well, then we'll direct the CAO to inform the planning director,
So why,
because I want to make it clear
You're not making anything clear. You're convoluting this now.
No, I'm not convoluting it. I'm making it clear that we do not support. So we don't want this coming back for another crack at public consultation meeting 2 months from now. That we want to make it clear that we do not support a public consultation meeting for 118 Oakland Avenue. So we'll direct the CAO to inform staff.
But we were the ones who directed staff to do this procedure. It didn't come, it was not staff-driven to begin with. It came from our in-camera meeting that we directed staff. So staff didn't come up with this, we did. And so your motion is not, it doesn't pertain to what we did. You're making it sound like staff came up with this idea and presented it to us, when in fact, we sat in a meeting and made a decision to direct staff to do this. So moving to not support is what we're doing. We are not supporting consultation on that property.
So is there any way that this can come back again? Because we seem to be having this come back and come back and come back. So are we gonna come back again to another public consultation?
Solicitor, please.
Yeah. We have to be careful as to what we're talking about here. All we're talking about, from my perspective at least, is the prior direction to staff. Applicants for changes to the land use bylaw, when they start a process, often have the right to come here, and you can't prevent them from coming here. So it simply depends on the process that is commenced, whether or not you will see this. I think the intent of your motion is to just countermand the prior decision. I know that your wish is that you not see this come back, but it can only come back in one of two ways, either as a result of the law entitling an applicant to come before you, or if staff took the initiative to bring it back. So those would be the only two ways it would come back before
I'm
you.
not talking about a developer bringing multiple plans back. I'm talking about a public consultation meeting. I don't want the public consultation idea brought back.
But we made that decision, not staff. We made the decision. So it's already dead in the water. And unless we
Make it.
direct staff to do it again, it's not going to happen. There is no vehicle. Councillor Bolland.
Just a point of order, and maybe a question, Your Worship, through to our solicitor. Councillor Andrews at the table here, and he wanted to speak, but in my opinion, is he not in a conflict of interest, speaking about a property that he owns?
That's not a point of order.
I don't own the property, thank you.
So it's not a point of order because it's up to each individual councillor to determine whether or not they have a conflict and declare that themselves.
Okay,
And
I
this
perceive
body
a
doesn't
conflict,
thi-
but.
This body doesn't sit in it as an adjudicative body with respect to that.
Your comments are recognized. Councillor Andrew, you now have the floor.
Thank you.
No, you
Sorry.
don't. We still only have,
You still only
sorry,
have
we
the
still only have a
resolution.
motion.
Can you repeat the motion?
No. Because I'm totally lost now. Thank you.
That council does not direct the acting CAO to implement a public consultation process on 118 Oakland Avenue.
No, the council directs, does not direct.
So, if I might, Jennifer's version of the motion might be acceptable. It's a positive motion, which is always preferable to a negative one, but not to say that a negative one couldn't be entertained. But it's a positive motion directing the CAO to
In the reverse.
yes, to essentially do the same thing that you're asking for, I believe, if Jennifer would repeat the resolution.
Okay.
That council does not direct the acting CAO to implement a public consultation process on 118 Oakland Avenue.
Or perhaps council does direct her not to implement How about that? That is a positive motion. Directs the CAO not to implement a public consultation process on 118 Oakdene.
Works for me.
Directs the CEO to not. You've got that.
That council does direct the acting CAO not to implement a public consultation process on 118 Oakdene Avenue.
You're happy with that, Councillor Maxwell? Do we have a seconder? Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that council direct the CAO to not implement. Oh, God. Could you please? I haven't got it at all.
That council does direct the acting CAO not to implement a public consultation process on 118 Oakdene Avenue.
So instead of does direct, council directs the CAO not to implement the public participation process.
That council directs the acting CAO not to implement a public consultation process on 118 Oakdene Avenue.
Is there discussion? Councillor Andrew.
Thank you. And the reason I'm still sitting here is because this is not about a particular developer, which I would suggest that the motion should be about the developer with which I'm associated. You are going to say that you don't want to facilitate public discussion, which is a responsibility of council. You don't want to facilitate public discussion with regard to a piece of land. And let's be honest here, the issue isn't the piece of land. The issue is the proposed developer, the proposed development, and the proposed residents of said development. That's the issue. So this is ridiculous, because what happens when this turns around and the property is sold and someone else wants to develop it? Is this a long-standing tradition in Kentville that 118 Oakdene is to remain untouched forever? That's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. I can't see that can pass at all. Jeff, you can say I'm wrong here, but the rejection is of a proposal. A proposal, mind you, that, and you said the residents were against it. We don't know that. We don't know that because this council refused to hear a proposal that was to be for this town, for the whole of the town. So it's insane. I just want to say it's insane. That motion cannot pass. That is the most embarrassing motion I've seen yet in three years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. I collected a few thoughts, so I hope it's okay that I read them.
Certainly.
They're quite short. Policy G16, our code of conduct for council. The such policy notes that we are to assess each issue presented to us through the lens of the following: property, environment, economic, social, relating to human society, public opinion, the collective opinion of numerous folks on the same issue, and other, that being perhaps chance of success. Since our last CAC meeting, I've taken a great deal of time to reflect on the 118 Oakdene property and where we are to date with the property. I've spoken to a great number of residents. As noted previously, public opinion is crucial to my decision making, and I'm here to make what I feel the best decision in the interest of the residents and constituents of Kentville. I'm a policy person. I'm not someone who makes decisions lightly. I'm a banker, and I weigh risk each day. I've listened to all sides in this matter, and I feel it is not in the best interest of the residents of Kentville to not hold the public participation meeting. I do not have faith that the public participation meeting would be fair and equitable, and this is my rationale. We debate in council, we listen respectfully, we make decisions, and we do all of this in the confines of chambers. We adhere to proper decorum. We are elected by the citizens of this town. Over the past few weeks, Councillor Andrew has opted to go outside chambers into the public domain, social media, and declare certain adjectives to describe council as a whole, such as toxic, a disgusting display of disrespect, council has no regard for citizens, dysfunctional working environment, hopeless council, And finally, each counselor has a responsibility to address the grievances, errors, and antics of the minority. They, us being council, have no business being in public service. Private emails amongst council have been shared on Facebook. I take umbrage with these remarks. When you make remarks about council, you are making them about all of council. This is character assassination, and it's downright libelous. I'm disappointed in your actions, Councillor Andrew, and the fact that you have chosen to deliberate and share your opinions on a matter to which you recused yourself is unacceptable. You have attempted to influence the residents of this town on a matter that you have declared a conflict of interest. In closing, I would like to say that I adhere to the ethics of affordable housing. We must choose wisely when making decisions around who heads off these projects and ensure the locations are both suitable and viable. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell?
I want to talk mostly about the public consultation meeting concerning 118. That's what we've been talking about all along, and we've slipped in other pieces of land with it. I don't know why, but 118 is first and foremost in all of our memos and everything. I think the purpose of this was to collect some data from the public. However, I don't know what that data was going to be used for. And in order for data to be useful, it needs to be valid, which would require good participation from the public, and in particular the residents of the north side of Kentville. Over the past several weeks, when the residents became aware of this possible public consultation meeting, I had an awful lot of them approach me, and I've also approached some myself. The reaction of the majority has been that they will not, and I stress that word not, attend a public consultation with this particular organization because they are fearful for themselves, their families, or their property. Some have even been intimidated, as we've heard previous in these chambers. With this in mind, the data that would be received from such a meeting would not be accurate, and in fact, it would be flawed data. No decisions can be made using flawed data, and therefore no decisions could be made from that particular meeting. Do I take the residents' fears seriously? As a matter of fact, I do. And I do because for over a year now, I have been subjected to Facebook posts, videos, emails that have made me feel like I have been bullied, harassed, and intimidated, and this wasn't just exclusive to me. Some other councillors have also been subjected to the same. Our characters have been demeaned and attempts made to tarnish our reputations. This was done by the executive director of this organization. The supporters of the organization have also engaged in this behavior through their comments on social media and comments presented here in these chambers. Unfortunately, this behavior is not exclusive to this group. The same pressures have been exerted right here in chambers. This has been very disturbing and very disappointing. I don't like to always go back to talk about my students, but it seems in teaching we experience an awful lot of things. And I taught my students that when we sit back and we don't try to stop these types of behaviors, then we are just as bad as those committing them. Because no one with any ability here seems to be able or prepared to stop these behaviors, I am speaking up against them. Never is using tactics such as these the way to secure cooperation with the public. All this being said, I see no purpose in having a public consultation and spending $5,000 for flawed data. It would be a waste of the planning department's budget, which of course is made up of taxpayer dollars. The residents have spoken through their petition and verbally with many of us on council, and I cannot support this plan. But as I stated at the last CAC, I have never, and neither has anyone on this council ever said that we did not support a low-income or affordable housing project in the town of Kentville. Most people would come to the town of Kentville with a plan in mind, and the National Housing Conference in their documents state that the best way for a group or organization to do this is to approach the town, tell them you want to start a project, and get out the map and have a look at where they would be best suited. And this has been done totally backwards, and I feel very much as if we've been told in many, many different ways that this is something that we have to do. And you know, to feel for a year bullied, harassed, and intimidated is not a nice feeling. And I don't intend to keep putting up with it. Thank you.
Councillor Gerard, please.
Thank you, Worship. I just want to say that in regards to the public consultation, what I recollect we spoke about and what the RFP ended up being were not the same thing. And most of it's now on the page, so I can speak a little bit about it. We were sold on, Kentville has several unique pieces of property that should be looked at or have a public consultation on what's going to go there, including 118 Oak Dean. But the RFP that came out was strictly for 118 Oak Dean, and I didn't think that was right, because that wasn't the idea that we talked about. It was going to be an all-encompassing, you know, everybody from Kentville would be allowed to come down and sit and look at the different pieces of property. Anyways, that's why I will support this motion. Thank
All right,
you.
thank you. Councillor Andrew.
I just, with regard to that, I'm not contesting the fact that there was clearly not good understanding between the arrangement that, or the intent, or the understanding that Open Arms chairperson and developer had made with senior staff, and I don't know who else was there because I wasn't privy to that. But Councillor Gerard, if you had read the response from our planning director, it actually said that there was an assessment done, and this was the only property in town currently that had that special, required that kind of special attention. I want to say that there's an assumption made here that the planning director and the planning department was not involved, and I'm reluctant to say this, but I don't have a choice at this point because I've been mischaracterized and there's been some silly information put out there. So the planning director was involved and engaged before the property was purchased. I never went into that territory because I'm on town council. Then, for the last year and a half, the planning director spent time, hours, weekly, meeting with and joining with the planner, developer, so this project all along. So let's not pretend this isn't part of a broader issue that's happening behind the scenes, because you all know it is. I respect Councillor Savage, and I hate to have had to go a direction. My problem is that we're in an age when people have no trust in government, and from what I've seen, they have no right to have any trust in government. That's my opinion. Any emails I shared, I will say I shared my emails going out. I've never shared an email that someone else sent to me, and I have not shared information that's been shared in camera. Although there have been some meetings that have happened here that have been deemed, and I've been told by Municipal Affairs, questionable. I would call those what we have referred to as a council, our Tea Party meetings, our governance meetings, we've called them, that are off the record meetings, and I guess that meeting is that stuff's available, but let's be honest, it is questionable. In one of those meetings, I brought up the fact that a property in 2006 that Councillor Maxwell had sold her interest in the property to her brother. She got up at that meeting and cried and ran like a schoolgirl to the bathroom and wouldn't come out, and we had to conclude our meeting.
I am. That's
Okay.
not true.
It's not true.
No.
What part of that is not true?
That's it. That's it.
Good night.
Thank you. Let the record show that Councillor Andrew is leaving the meeting.
I'd like for one of you to deny it. One of you to deny the kind of attacks that you've received by email. One of you. And then Floyd pop it.
Please.
Thanks for the head up.
Thanks, John. Councillor Bolland.
No, I'll,
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Your worship, if it pleases you, I'll read the recommendations and reports.
No, we're not finished with this motion.
Oh, no, I meant after.
Oh, okay, certainly. We are voting. So we are voting on whether or not to hold a democratic meeting, soliciting input from our residents. We're not voting on supporting a proposal put forth by a property owner. The residents, this council, and the planning department have told us numerous times they did not support the proposal. Many have supported the proposal. But many have not due to its density, the neighborhood fix, and the residential mix. And that's what this meeting was supposed to be about. It was supposed to be a democratic meeting so that all people in the town of Kentville could go and give their opinion of how to proceed with this property. I'm going to ask you again to please vote to support a democratic meeting. It will give us an opportunity to learn what the residential mix is right for that property and that neighborhood. Are you ready for the question? Well, I can't. Please.
That council directs the acting CAO not to implement a public consultation process on 118 Oakdean Avenue. Thank you.
Voting? Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion passes. All right, Deputy Mayor, we'll move on to recommendations and reports,
We
please.
still have one.
Oh,
business
sorry.
Business park dedication.
That's right.
correction.
Sorry. All right,
Shall I take that one?
please do.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Get my
We-
wits back about me.
We have a report submitted by Jennifer West, Executive Assistant, regarding the Business Park Street dedication. It's a correction. At the September 10th, 2018 meeting of Council Advisory Committee, staff made a recommendation that Council approve the opening of parcel CDE-1, known as Chipman Drive, and parcel SA-1, known as Street A, shown on plan of survey prepared by Kevin Brown, Design Point Engineering and Surveying. Drawing number 16-080-SL-L4 as public streets. The same resolution was passed at the September 24th, 2018 Special Council meeting. It is also noted that Street A, parcel SA1, was named Lions Drive at the March 25th, 2019 meeting of Council. Under discussion, this resolution contains a typographical error that must be resolved. The correct wording should refer to survey drawing number 16-080-SV-L4. So the recommendation reads, whereas by resolution dated September the 10th, 2018, and recorded in the Land Registry for Kings County as document number 113298344, Council opened parcel CD-1, known as Chipman Drive, and parcel SA-1, known as Street A, and subsequently named Lyons Drive, as public streets. And whereas the 2018 resolution contained typographical errors in the survey drawing number, and whereas council wishes to correct the errors in the resolution and confirm that parcel CD-1 and parcel SA-1 are opened as public streets in the town of Kentville, be it resolved that council confirm that parcels CD-1 and parcel SA-1 are opened as public streets in the town of Kentville, as shown on the plan of survey of parcel CD-1 and SA-1 being a subdivision of PID 55263-776, lands of the town of Kentville, by Design Point Engineering and Surveying, as its drawing number 16-080-SV-L4, and signed by Kevin C. Brown, NSLS number 601, which plan is filed at the Kings County Land Registration Office as document number 113298-963.
Thank you.
Your worship, I just wanted to say I wrote that especially for the accountant to read.
Thank you.
Did I get it right?
I have to repeat it twice, so just hold on to yourself there. Second? Second. Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded that council approve the correction of the typographical error in the drawing number 16-080-SV-L4. Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to make correction of the drawing number to 16-080-SV-L4. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. Voting is now dead. And the motion is carried. Thank you. All right, Deputy Mayor, now we will move on to the recommendations and reports.
Thank you, Your Worship. The first recommendation to council is read the temporary boring resolution for sanitary sewer service 2019-2020. At the September 9th, 2019 meeting of CAC, Director Kroll presented her request for a temporary boring resolution to support the sanitary sewer capital program for 2019-2020. This funding would support sewer renewals in the Apple Tree Lane and Overlook community. CAC recommended that council authorize the temporary boring resolution TBR 1920-02 for sewer in the amount of $125,000. Following approval, it will be sent to the Minister for Department of Municipal Affairs for provincial authorization. So moved.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that council authorize the temporary borrowing resolution TBR 19-20-02 for sewer in the amount of $125,000. Following approval, it will be sent to the Minister for Department of Municipal Affairs for provincial authorization. Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to authorize the temporary borrowing resolution TBR 1920-02 for sewer in the amount of $125,000. Following approval, it will be sent to the Minister for Department of Municipal Affairs for provincial authorization. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you.
Next recommendation to council, read temporary boring resolution for capital works activities. At the September 9th, 2019 meeting of CAC, Director Kroll presented her request for a temporary boring resolution to support the capital works program for 2019-2020. These funds would support the purchase of projects and equipment in the Public Works Department and the Parks and Rec Department. CAC recommended that council authorize the temporary boring resolution TBR 1920-01 for various purposes for capital in the amount of $1,081,500. Following approval, it would be sent to the Minister of Department of Municipal Affairs for provincial authorization. So moved.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that council authorize the temporary borrowing resolution TBR 1920-01 for various purposes for capital in the amount of $1,081,500. Following approval, it will be sent to the Minister for Department of Municipal Affairs for provincial authorization. Is there any discussion? Councillor Maxwell.
Yes, I'm just wondering if the Campbell Road is included in that package there as well, or not.
Yes, Campbell Road is included under streets various.
Right. Okay, so I have a copy here of the capital investment plan for 2019 to 2020, when we discussed it in council. And we looked at Campbell Road, and at the time, I had made a statement about starting that project at the bottom and then coming up, because the bottom is in very, very bad shape. And I have a note here that we were going to revisit that, and we never did revisit it. And then I noticed that there was another item included in that 1 million that we didn't discuss in this draft. And so I'm wondering, was there another meeting for budget that I missed, or was there something added afterwards, or how did that happen?
I'm not sure what project you're talking about that was in your mind added to the budget. I think you might be talking about Park Street project.
Yes.
Park Street project is not funded by borrowings. It's funded by gas tax money, so it sits in another part of the budget.
Okay, so I thought that when you gave us a list, that Park Street project was in that list.
Only these projects are the only projects that are funded by long-term borrowing. There are many
Okay.
other funding sources that we're using. One of them is gas tax. There are also our own reserve funds
Okay.
and whatnot. So these are the projects that are only funded, or the part of the project that is funded by long-term borrowings from the province of Nova Scotia.
Okay, so what happened to the Campbell Road? Like, most of council agreed that that lower section was in bad shape, and we happened to be doing the upper section. I didn't even know that until I went and saw the lines down for the project to start. And I had no clue. I thought we were coming from the end, moving up, and then as far as the money would go. And I think that was what a lot of council thought as well. And we were under that impression.
I don't believe that was the explanation that the former CAO provided to us. The part of Campbell Road which is being repaired is the part which Public Works and our GIS technician through mapping have determined is in the worst shape, and it is the part that is being redone.
Did the Public Works Department go beyond the stop sign on James Street and have a look at the road?
I was not in the vehicle with them. They are out there every single day, so I would say their assessment of a road is much better than mine.
Okay, I'm not sure. I just think that the residents there, maybe what you can do is find out the last time that road was paved for me for our next meeting. That section. When was the last time that the lower section of Campbell Road, when was it paved?
Councillor Maxwell, our capital budget is not based on when the last time something has been paved. It's the condition. And
So the condition could deteriorate right down to one strip of pavement, and it wouldn't be considered to be
I
good?
cannot imagine that our Public Works, given their record and their care and concern for the streets in this town, would allow it to go down to a single strip.
Well, I would hope not, but we're almost there. So I'm just wondering if we could go back into the records and find out when the last time that street was
So
paved.
are you talking about the street that is part of the town of Kentville, or are you talking about the street that's in the county of Kings?
No, I know where the town of Kentville is because we walked that for election. So I know that it runs from...
The houses are in the town of Kentville.
Yes.
That part of the street is not the town of Kentville. That is a municipality of Kings. There is a cement pillar right there, the sidewalk end, or the curb ends, and that is county.
Okay, so if I
road.
go to the County of Kings and complain about that section, they're going to fully accept that that's their section.
They are going to fully accept that it is their
Okay.
section, but
Good.
they're also going to tell you that it's a J-class road and that they only get so much money, and that the
Yeah.
County of Kings has the most J-class roads in the province, and that there's only $2 million per year for all
Okay.
all rural roads in Nova Scotia.
Okay, thank you. That would have been nice when I sent the email to have that much of an explanation, but I accept that, so thank you very much, and I will contact County of Kings.
And it's actually the Department of Transportation that you contact. There's a 1-800 number.
Yep, I can find that.
Yeah. Is there any other discussion on this matter? All right, the question is on adoption of the motion to authorize the temporary borrowing resolution TBR 1920-01 for various purposes for capital in the amount of $1,081,500. Following approval, it will be sent to the Minister for Department of Municipal Affairs for the provincial authorization. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you.
The next recommendation to council is Condon Avenue Stormwater, my apologies, Infrastructure Renewal Award. At the September 9th, 2019 meeting of CAC, CAO Phillips presented an update on the stormwater pipe renewal for Condon Avenue in relation to modernizing of stormwater infrastructure. CAC recommended that council approve the following project: Town of Kentville Capital Works, Condon Avenue to the lower bidder, Howard Little Excavating Limited, a unit price contract in the amount of $187,450, HST included. So moved.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that council approve the following project: Town of Kentville Capital Works, Condon Avenue, to the low bidder, Howard Little Excavating Limited, a unit price contract in the amount of $187,450, HST included. And discussion, Councillor Gerard, please.
Thank you, Worship. And I know that our new engineer has not taken his seat in his office yet. I asked the previous CAO this question when we talked about this at CAC. I just want to make sure that the money that we're spending is going to fix the problem that we're having. Is there a way, before they start tearing the road up, to have our new engineer look at whatever they're going to do, because they're essentially fixing the middle section. There's a problem now down at the ballpark. There's a problem up above where they're fixing, and I just don't want to spend $200,000 of taxpayers' money to have the same thing happen next year, but we've got a new fancy road that we've got to repair.
Our new, if I may,
Certainly,
our new
please.
our engineer, who will be starting middle of October, has been sitting in on these meetings. He
Okay.
has looked at the plans for this particular project, as well as all the projects in the town of Kentville. So, yes, this is his recommendation. He has been involved
Okay.
with this from start to finish.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks. Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to approve the following project: Town of Kentville Capital Works, Condon Avenue, to the low bidder, Howard Little Excavating Limited, a unit price contract in the amount of $187,450, HST included.
Question, oh, sorry.
Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you. Moving on.
Next recommendation, policy revision, policy statement G57 committees of council. At the September 9th, 2019 meeting of CAC, CAO Phillips reviewed the proposed amendments to policy statement G57 committees of council, which would reflect the changes made to support the new Accessibility Advisory Committee. CAC recommended that council approve the attached changes to policy statement G57 committees of council, which reflect the new Accessibility Advisory Committee. So moved.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that council approve the attached changes to policy statement G57, committees of council, which reflect the new accessibility advisory committee. Is there any discussion?
Question?
The question is on adoption of the motion to approve the attached changes to the policy statement G57, committees of council, which reflect the new accessibility advisory committee. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. Motion is carried. Thank you. Are we having a Facebook issue?
No, I just looking to see if it's on.
So the next recommendation to council is the Kings Regional Emergency Management Organization Preparedness and Response Plans. At the September 9th, 2019 meeting of CAC, Dan Stovall, Kings Remo coordinator, gave a presentation about the proposed heat advisory and response system and hurricane preparedness and response plan. These plans will improve coordination and efficiency of resources during emergencies. CAC recommended that council approve the Kings Remo draft heat advisory and response system and hurricane preparedness and response plans. So moved.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that council approve the Kings Remo draft heat advisory and response system and hurricane preparedness and response plans. Is there any discussion?
Question?
The question is on adoption of the motion to approve the Kings Remo draft heat advisory and response system and hurricane preparedness response plan. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you.
Next recommendation, Kentville Business Community Special Projects Request. At the September 9th, 2019 meeting of CAC, Zach Best, Executive Director, and Wade Thibault gave a presentation about the progress and activities at KBC from April to September 2019, including events, initiatives, board members, and the strategic plan. Mr. Best also presented a request to special projects funding to support a marketing campaign for KBC through a grant of $20,091. CAC recommended that council approve Kentville Business Community's request for a grant of $20,091 to support a special project. So moved.
Thank you. I would like to add that perhaps we should change the word grant to funding, since this is funding that is available to KBC at their request. It is not truly a grant through our grant. So if that could be a friendly amendment.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
so that's good. So use the term funding rather than grant. All right, it's been moved and seconded that council approve the Kentville community request for funding of $20,091 to support a special project. Is there any discussion? The question is on adoption of the motion to approve the Kentville Business Community's request for funding of $20,091 to support a special project. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you.
And the last recommendation to council from CAC is Bob Hainstock Art Space request. At the September 9th, 2019 meeting of CAC, Mr. Bob Hainstock gave a presentation about a potential arts center in the town-owned Calkin building on Cornwallis Street. The Kentville Art Gallery Society submitted a business plan that would support this activity and asked council to consider supporting the plan with an ad hoc committee and a 2-year lease. CAC recommended that council support in principle the concept as presented by Mr. Hainstock. So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. I received an email from Mr. Hainstock directed to Mayor and Council, requesting if we could amend the motion to look at the 2-year lease for the Hardware Gallery's current space be amended to commence December the 1st, 2019. Is this a consideration of where we are right now? Deputy Mayor, you're on. Your mic is on. So we did, he came and
Are you-
asked us for things, and
Right.
then we just approved it in principle, but this was his request at the 11th hour.
So if I recall correctly back to CAC, I think that that the lease is currently with the Kentville Art Society, right?
That's correct.
And so my understanding was they were forming a new cooperative.
Yes.
So the lease, and I'm looking at you, Solicitor Matart, the lease would then need to be, a new lease would need to be created with the cooperative. Thank you.
What this looks like from a legal perspective is yet to be sorted out. It would have to be developed with the players.
Okay.
So any lease considerations that council might have at this point would be simply with the existing tenant. That lease is as of October the 1st,
Yeah, September 30th.
September 30th.
Today,
Today,
today's their last day.
it's now month to month, as I
Yes.
recall. So it's month to month with no notice by the town to the art gallery to vacate, and that's who the agreement's with. I would suggest that tonight you have a tenant, and this is a staff matter that would have to be discussed with the tenant and with the proponents, and not something the council's really in a position to deal with.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So it has been moved and seconded that council support in principle the concept as presented by Mr. Hainstock. Discussion, Councillor Gerard, please.
Nope, the solicitor answered all.
Okay, perfect. Is there any further discussion?
Question?
The question is on adoption of the motion to support in principle the concept as presented by Mr. Hainstock. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our reports, and the reports will be added to the public record under a single motion at the end of the presentation. So we'll start with Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Last council meeting attendant was July the 29th. Nice to have a month off from council in August. Date of last CAC was September the 9th. A list of my committee meetings were September the 11th, Investment Advisory Committee, where we review reports and recommendations for the month ended August 31st. And our portfolio is just north of 13 million, and our year-to-date money-weighted net percentage is 9.9. So we're doing quite well. September 12th was a Finance and Admin Committee. We met to discuss the CAO applications and short list same. Interviews are to commence in early October. September 16th was King's Diversity, where we reviewed the budget update, and there were discussions around a more diverse slate for the 2020 municipal election. We are supporting an AVCC award, a first for Diversity Kings, and Diversity Kings sponsored with specific criteria as to a business that exemplifies diversity as outlined by our committee. I attended Regional Sewer on September the 19th, where we talked about work plan items, status report and capacity report, and an AM plan overview. We had an update on the regional sewer plant odor. We had an operations update. The lab had flooded out with Dorian, but all is back in order. At that time, we had capital updates. They were brought up today on the headworks, ventilation upgrades, and the H2S levels are much lower now. Regional gate and fencing is complete, and aeration upgrades, RFP, are going out as of November the 1st. We have 1 million, which is approved, and the first priority is to improve the odor in the lagoons, of course. We reviewed the average quarterly flows and loads by partner, and our BOD TSS, which is total suspended solids, and hydraulic loads are all in complete compliance. September 25th, we had a special council meeting. It was an in-camera land issue. October, some attendance on events, August 16th to the 18th, Canada Cup Bike Weekend. I attended the Canada Cup Weekend as both a voyeur and a presenter. The fact that Kentville is the chosen spot in all of Atlantic Canada is a real feather in our cap. Councillor Ballin also assisted the team in setup and presented medals on Saturday. Rachel and her team should be super proud of the work, as this work that it takes to put an event like this. Great great deal of praise. And then I inserted a table for whatever reason. I don't know why. Sorry. August 28th, there was a lunch at Town Hall to celebrate the retirement of longstanding employee Pat Gorley. So good luck to you, Pat. Wonderful and kind woman. August the 30th was the Doctor Recruitment Appreciation Event, and what a great event. Thanks to all the companies, both private and public, whom sponsored the such event. It's a great way to thank our doctors for locating to our beautiful Annapolis Valley. September 4th, we had a joint council and KBC meeting. It was a precursor to the presentation at CAC meeting as to how they wish to use their funds as they relate to the special projects which we passed tonight. A well-received proposal around videos of our town and reusable Kentville bags. Well done, KBC. And September 16th, I attended at the Lions Hall a panel of doctors and MLA John Lohr on what is working and not working with Nova Scotia Health Authority, and that's the end of my report.
Excellent.
Thank you.
very much. Councillor Ballin, please.
Thank you, Worship. Date of last council meeting attended July 29th, last CAC September 9th. Committee meeting attendance September 18th, Valley Waste Management, as well as the 25th, and more on that later. And I also placed, with Jennifer's help, a communication update from Valley Waste. Everybody's got that for light reading when you go home from the CBC television or something. As Deputy Mayor said, August 17th, 18th, the Canada Cup bike race. I assisted our former CEO Phillips in the early hours, both days to set up the course, and later in the day, I was pleased to award medals to the winners, including Kentville resident David Marshall, who won the gold medal in his category. So it was good to see a local guy do really well on his home turf. August 30th, Dr. Welcoming celebration at the Main Street Ballroom in Kentville. Well attended. The new physicians appreciate the gifts and warm welcome from the town. A great idea and a wonderful opportunity to see the renovations being done at the Main Street end. So a good exposure for that property. September 1st, summer concert series at Oakdean Park. Lori and I enjoyed the music in the park with about 30 other attendees. September 4th, joint council meeting with Kentville Business Group, year-end overview, budget discussion, future projects coming up such as Devour in October, and again, lots of positive discussions between the two groups. September 25th, meeting of council and staff, reviewed purchase offers for the former Robinson property. Selections were made and staff are now pursuing an offer. Back to Valley Waste, the usual staff and committee reports. We had an in-camera session regarding a former member of Valley Waste Management. Andrew Garrett, our regional coordinator, reported the fall cleanup started the end of September, so actually today in Kentville and elsewhere. The calendar is coming back this year. The Sustained Recycling Technology Center grand opening is expected-ish within 30 days, so that's coming up soon. September 26th, just a few days ago, the province announced a province-wide ban on plastic shopping bags. The authority made a resolution on this in the winter of 2018. If passed by the Nova Scotia government, which in fact it has been, industry will have a year to prepare for the legislation. Retailers will be allowed to use single-use plastic bags for live fish and bulk items. There will be exemptions for food banks and charities. The legislation won't require retailers to charge for alternatives to plastic bags. And just a tidbit here, Nova Scotians sent an average of 423 kilograms of waste per capita to landfills in 2017-2018. We had a brief meeting at Valley Waste end of last week, some, again, staff and committee reports, and then a brief in-camera session regarding the authority's surplus disbursement policy. And I think there's more on that coming up later by our acting CAO. And that's my report.
Excellent.
Thank
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. All right, my meetings are listed there. Attended all council meetings and so on. From, that should be August 15th, 2019 to, I believe it was September 5th. Was involved in six engineering interviews and shortlisting for a new engineer. On August 16th, we had an emergency council meeting. On September 25th, we also had a special council meeting in camera. Town of Kentville events, attended the Marlins swim meet on August 3rd. It's always an honor for me to attend that event. August 16th, Parade of Champions for the Canada Cup. Great kickoff to Canada Cup. This was a new addition this year, and it was quite well received and well attended. August 17th, I attended the Canada Cup Kitchen Party. Again, a wonderful event for Canada Cup participants, great music, super food, and camaraderie. Suggestion would be to advertise this event for public participation to the welcome participants, so we can welcome participants and all celebrate together. August 17th, I took in the Canada Cup mountain bike race. I took my great niece to this event, which featured the young riders, and again, amazed at the talent that is out there in mountain bike racing. On August 24th, I attended the Multicultural Festival. Super day for this event, lots of sunshine, and the wet weather didn't start until the end. Attendance seemed greater this year, with a noticeable increase in diversity, which is the whole purpose of that event. August 2nd, attended Oak Dean Days, another beautiful day for this event. Lots of families with music for the children being very popular. And of course, the soap slide, along with the hot dogs from the Rotary, and thanks go out to the Rotary there. August 28th, I attended Pat Gorley's retirement luncheon, a wonderful event by town staff to celebrate Pat's retirement from her longtime service to the town of Kentville. Of course, wishing Pat all the best. September 21st, I dropped into the Walk a Mile in Her Shoes event, which is always well attended. Congratulations to Royal LePage Atlantic for sponsoring this event, with a final total being slightly over $13,000 for Chrysalis House. Annapolis Valley Trails, we had a meeting on September 4th. The highlights there is now a shared strategy out for trails in Nova Scotia. That's by the province, and that was distributed. We looked at the trail coordinators report and all the work conducted over the summer. There were 30 to 40 sites that had to be cleaned up after Tropical Storm Erin. Partners are putting amenity signs up along the trail, bike racks, repair stations, where the food is, and things like that. I saw them up in Berwick on their trail. Benches are also out on the trail. Amenity signage is up throughout Kings County. Trailheads and new gates are going up along the trail, and sight lines around the intersections are being improved. As far as the budget goes, the cash flow in July was very slow, but that has been corrected. Funds have been received from most of the partners, and the provincial government of community, culture, and heritage funding has been received. We will be tight meeting financial commitments this year, but the chair feels that we will come out in the end okay. The Western Loop conceptual map will hopefully be presented to Nova Scotia Trails by February 2020. Community, Culture, and Heritage has given verbal approval for development of the Harvest Moon Trail brochure, with the understanding that we would work with Bicycle Nova Scotia, and that is happening. The website should be up and running by late December or early January, and that's a good news story. And we are again working with students from COGS to itemize all trails and infrastructure, as well as working on a project that is similar to Google Maps for the Harvest Moon Trail. So hopefully everything will be up and running well for next summer. And there were no policy changes there. That's my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Pulsifer, please.
Thank you. Last council meeting attended July 29th, last CAC meeting September the 9th. August 16th, attended special council meeting. August 30th, Source Water Protection Advisory meeting. Discussion held in regards to the review of County of Kings draft municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw with respect to source water planning. September the 4th, Joint Council and Kentville Business Corporation. We had updates on upcoming special projects, in particular proposed promotion videos and a new reusable Kentville bags. These are great ideas moving forward for the town. September the 12th, Annapolis Valley Regional Library Board meeting. I'll go into detail a little later in my report. September 17th, Kings Point-to-Point meeting. Kings Point-to-Point is busy and doing well. July's statistic comparison from last year is up. Total drives are showing 2,600, up from 2,244 last July. Drive increase is 15.9%, and revenue increase is up 13.3%. Total kilometers this July was 49,324 compared to July 2018 at 44,307 kilometers. This nonprofit organization has a total of 11 drivers, consisting of 4 part-time, with the rest being full-time. September 25th, special council meeting, Reland, in camera. September 10th, Source Water Protection Plan meeting. There was not a quorum, but those present, we did a thorough review of the draft Kentville Source Water Protection Plan. August 24th, Multicultural Fair. As reported, it was bigger and better this year, a great success. August 30th, attended the Doctors Recruitment Appreciation Event, and that was a wonderful event held at the Cornwallis Inn. Thanks to all who made this such a success, and we welcomed and expressed appreciation to 11 new doctors. This is a committee report on the Annapolis Valley Regional Library Board meeting that was held on September the 12th. Meeting highlights: reports from library representatives were presented. The Kentville Library is hosting 3 different writing projects, along with 3 book launches / readings from Jan Coates, Leslie Crew, and Carolyn Adderson. The circulation at the Kentville Library from April to August of this year was 38,834, up 7.75% from last year, and was the highest circulation of materials in the libraries throughout the valley. Also of note, average hours of computer, this is wireless usage per month in 2019 at our library, was 3,051 hours, up 17.55% from last year. No report on any budget at this time. New projects, basically pertaining to the advocacy of our libraries. Postcards were given out to board members for distribution, and it's a package of 5 cards which show and tell what libraries offer. And October is Library Month. Discussion was held regarding the Accessibility Act and how it will relate to libraries, both existing and new. More to follow on that. This year's Provincial Library Conference will be held October 18th to the 20th at White Point. Miscellaneous events, September the 11th, I attended the Kentville Historical Society's bi-monthly meeting held at Kings Riverside Court. The Heritage Center was presented with an original 1938 hand-drawn map of downtown Kentville at this meeting. Louis Camo and Ed Coleman, local historians in Kentville, led the discussion following this presentation. This map is definitely a treasure to have and is on display at the Kentville Heritage Center. Also of note, that night we had 3 heritage interpretive boards there, and they were available for all people to view that were at the meeting. September 19th, attended a reading by author Leslie Crew at Kings Riverside Court, and this event was sponsored by the Kentville Library and was a huge success. That's my report.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Worship. Mine is much briefer than the rest. September the 18th, I attended the NSAPG, NSACP, Police Governance and Police Chiefs, and I did attach my agenda, but it's not on there now, so I'll just quickly go through the agenda. Department of Justice, edibles are legal as of October the 16th, but they're not allowed to be produced yet, so it'll be December the 16th. Human trafficking and non-state torture update. Let's see, we talked about WCB. We also had Gordon McIntosh, who I'm sure you'll all remember gave us a thing a few years ago. Anyways, he was great, and he helped a lot with stuff, and actually some of the local board people or commission people did attend. Other than that, I attended the KBC council meeting, and that is my report.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, CAO, I guess it's turn for my report. So the 25th of July, I attended the Valley Wren Board of Directors meeting, and we had a staff presentation from Rachel Brighton, and at the time they were having a temporary lift on their hiring freeze, and the next board meeting location was determined to be at Kings County Building. We were also looking at the contribution agreements, and funding requests had arrived from Acadia Entrepreneur Center and as well from Devour Foods. Most of the other things, we signed the QP contract on the 15th of August 2019, and that's a 4-year contract that's signed with our QP union members, so that was quite a boon for us. 30th of August had the Source Water Protection Advisory Committee. We had folks there from Kings County looking at our MPS and our LUB and comparing it to the wording that they had in theirs. And for the most part, the wording kind of matches, but we will have a greater level of conversation at the staff level on that. Moving right along, I attended a doctor recruiting meeting with the new AVCC committee chair, Mark Vardy, and Marissa Davidson. That was in advance of our doctor recruitment event. I also had a tour with a doctor and his family coming from the UK. And it was one of those times where you take people down to the library, and we basically had to use a shoehorn to get the little girls out of the library because they were just absolutely enthralled with it. It was really quite incredible. The 31st of July was our Festival of Flowers in downtown Kentville. The presentation of the David White Trophy and video went to our winner, Gerlicher. On the 1st and 2nd of August, I attended a cultural competence workshop for effective communication and awareness in cross-cultural situations. Carolyn Landry did the workshops for us, and it was very well done. On the 2nd of August, I had a tour with a doctor and their family coming from Corner Brook, Newfoundland. And that was a really great one because again, they were a young couple, and it turned out that they happened to be staying in an Airbnb, so I could introduce them to their host, and then they found an accountant that day, and so it was just one of those things. It was incredible. You know, you never expect to as you're walking around the street in downtown Kentville that you're actually going to be helping these people who are moving get fixed up with their service providers. On the 12th of August, I attended a funding announcement from the federal government at Ocean Crisp. So that would be the former I guess bread building over in the park, and what they were getting the funding for was a robotic sorting system for Honeycrisp apples. We often look at our Honeycrisps and say, oh my goodness, how expensive are they? But I just want to let you know that the average price in the U.S. for a Nova Scotia Honeycrisp apple is $7 US a pound. So they really love our Honeycrisp apples, one of the best-selling apples. And this new robotic sorting system means that there will be really good quality to the apples. So once it's open, they're going to invite us down for a tour. So that was $25 million in there. Did a video shoot with local folk artist Dennis Ramsey. That was a ball and a half, I'll say. 2 days later, I was up at Aldershot, the summer basic training graduation parade. There was over 250 young reservists on parade. It was a really great parade. And then on the 30th of August, I attended the Working Together Welcome Celebration for the new medical specialists, and there's 11 of them recently arrived. Annapolis Valley Labor Council had their Labor Day barbecue in Memorial Park. Again, absolutely great event on the 10th of September. And again, my apologies out to Councillor Pulsford, because she had to take the chairship on Source Water. But I went to the Police Exemplary Service Medal investiture. Sergeant Marty Smith and Constable Angie McWade received their 20-year medals, so that was really great. And then on the 11th of September, I went over to Remo, and they gave us a situation brief after Dorian. And one of the things that came out of there is things like local radio. You know, when you don't have power and you're depending on a battery-powered radio, it's nice to know that when you turn it on, at what time you turn it on, is when you will be getting the updates, as opposed to piped-in music from Halifax, which is not always one of those great things. 14th of September, attended the West Nova Scotia Regiment annual reunion. It was the 70th annual reunion for the association. And of course, I brought greetings from the town and enjoyed a wonderful dinner. I did the walk a mile in her shoes, and then up to K-Rock to help out with the food drive. I attended a housing forum in Cornwallis at the Annapolis Valley, at the Annapolis Basin Conference Center. And basically what they were looking at is the housing study that we were part of, done for the Western Valley, and how we move forward and how we make things better. From there, I drove to Halifax for the United Nations proclamation for the International Decade of People of African Descent and the global call to action for the event. I think what's of note here is that Canada and the Caribbean countries are the only countries in the world who have signed on to this International Decade for People of African Descent and the global call to action. The Deputy Commissioner of the United Nations was there, and all she could do was praise Canadians. And then the next day, Nova Scotia put the action plan out. And Nova Scotia is actually the only province in Canada to actually step up and put an action plan for this International Decade for People of African Descent and global call to action. And Premier McNeil spoke amazingly, and he said that this plan was not just about talk, it was actually going to be about action, and that coming forward we would see some great activity. So lots of miscellaneous events. I got to ride in a monster truck for charity. Just going to say, never doing that again. Had some great lunches and did a video exploring Ryan's park development, and you should see that coming out very soon. And there was some cake to celebrate Director Kroll's birthday. And on Dorian Day, I did the walk for suicide prevention. We didn't actually do the walk, but we did receive a presentation from the guest speaker. And then on the 14th of September, I attended the Kentville Lions Breakfast Club. And that's about it. And I took a week or 11 days off to visit my mom in Ontario. So that is my report. So if we could have a motion to accept Member of Council's reports as presented. So moved. Thank you. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that Members of Council reports be adopted as presented. All those in favor? Aye. Motion is carried. All those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Moving on to our correspondence. All correspondence becomes part of the public record and received by the Mayor and Council at our public email addresses with regards to matter before this Council will be considered public correspondence unless there's a specific request not to make it public. CAO, if you could step us through our correspondence, please.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. We have two pieces of correspondence this evening. The first is from Gordon Smith, the Provincial Director of Planning, to the Mayor and Council, CAOs and clerks. It's a thank you letter, essentially, for the input that was given to the government regarding the proposed minimum planning regulations and engagement program. They appreciated the feedback that they received. Once Bill number 58 and the regulations are proclaimed, municipal land use planning will become a mandatory activity for all municipal units in Nova Scotia. The province believes that the proposed changes in these regulations will provide a more efficient and responsive approach to land use planning and will maintain they will maintain their open and responsive approach to communication with municipalities in these matters. They've attached a summary of the comments that they've received. You can read those at your leisure. If you want some detailed additional clarifications, you can contact them directly. But again, they appreciate the time that town offered in giving its suggestions.
Thank you.
The second piece of correspondence is from Jillian Smith, who was a recipient of one of our bursaries this year. She is very grateful to be supported by the town, and she is very excited to be starting her first year at St. FX in the Bachelor of Science Human Kinetics program, so she thanks the town for its support.
Excellent. Thank you, CAO. Moving on to our new business, CAO again, it's your part of the ship here, Valley Waste Guarantees.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. This is a report for Valley Region Solid Waste Resource Management Authority. They've changed their name somewhat. These are guaranteed resolutions that the town has received. The background, the Valley Region Solid Waste Resource Management Authority, or VWRM, approved temporary borrowing resolution 1920/01 for $121,985 and temporary borrowing resolution 19/20-02 for $14,822. It also approved sending the guaranteed resolutions to each of the authority's partners for approval. Both of these relate to funds that are currently being held by Nova Scotia Municipal Finance Corporation as a result of Annapolis County refusing to sign their guarantee resolutions when the debenture funds were available to Valley Waste. Now that there is a new intermunicipal services agreement for the remaining 6 parties, Nova Scotia Municipal Finance Corporation will advance the balance of the funds once the parties sign the guarantee resolution for their proportionate share, and Kenfield's share has moved up to 9.95%. These guarantees require council's authorization, after which they will be returned to Valley Region Solid Waste Resource Management Authority to complete the required paperwork. So the recommendation reads, without intending in any way to release or otherwise limit the liability or responsibility of any one or more current or former parties of Valley Waste Resource Management to contribute to or to guarantee the accrued indebtedness of Valley Waste Regional Management Authority, Town Council ratifies the guarantee resolutions noted below. Following this event and duly authorized, the documents will return to Valley Region Solid Waste Resource Management Authority. So the guarantee resolutions are for Valley Region Solid Waste. The first one is in the amount of $12,138. That is Town of Kentville's proportionate share. Guarantee resolution number 2 for Valley Region Solid Waste, the town's proportionate share, $1,475.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that council ratify the guaranteed resolutions from Valley Region Solid Waste Resource Management Authority in the amount of $12,138 and $1,475 in accordance with the revised intermunicipal service agreement. Is there any discussion? The question is on adoption of the motion to ratify the guaranteed resolution from Valley Source Solid Waste Resource Management Authority in the amount of $12,138 and $1,475 in accordance with the revised intermunicipal service agreement. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. CAO?
Yes, thank you.
So if I could just interrupt there.
Certainly.
There were actually 2 motions before council. I believe you passed them all with 1 resolution, but there were
Okay.
actually 2 resolutions supplied by Valley Waste, I believe.
There were 2
Okay.
resolutions, yes.
So I just wanted to be clear as to what happened there.
Okay, thank you. Do we want to vote a second time? Is there
As
a
long
need?
as it was clear that you approved, that you adopted both of the resolutions with that vote, then I think you're fine.
So you realize there was one for 12,138 and a second for 1,475? Thank you. All right, CAO.
Yes, thank you. The next item on the agenda relates to the Town of Kentville Capital Works Pipework Program. This was sent out for consideration tenders earlier this year, and our consulting engineer firm has submitted its analysis of the tenders that were received, and they have reviewed them, and they would recommend that the low bidder, Mid-Valley Construction 1997 Limited, be awarded a unit price contract in the amount of $666,885 plus HST for this particular program. This is part of our 2019-20 capital program.
Thank you. So council approved the following project, Town of Kentville Capital Works Pipe Works to the low bidder Mid-Valley Construction 1997 Limited, a unit price contract in the amount of $666,885 plus HST. Motion, thank you. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that council approve the following project, Town of Kentville Capital Works Pipe Works to the low bidder Mid-Valley Construction 1997 Limited, a unit price contract in the amount of $666,885 plus HST. Discussion? The question is on adoption of the motion to approve the following project, Town of Kentville Capital Works, Pipe Works to the low bidder, Mid-Valley Constructions, 1997 Limited, a unit price contract in the amount of $666,885 plus HST. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you. All right, and the next item is on the NSFM resolutions. The meeting was held on Friday at the Kings County Municipal Building in Colebrook. You see before you the resolutions that will remain on the 2019 docket to province because none of them have been resolved, but the NSFM is asking us to look at the statements of concern and that we prioritize them and get this information back to the NSFM by October the 4th. So I will go around the room and ask you to prioritize those items as 1 to 5, 1 being the highest priority and 5 being the lowest. Deputy Mayor.
Sorry, I had one question if
Okay.
I
Oh,
could. I
certainly.
wasn't at that meeting. No, that's all right. The discussions, the resolution that's going to be presented, the EPR one.
Yes.
Was there much discussion around that?
It remains the same amount of discussion, especially since the province just accepted the plastic bag ban. So we thought that this would be hand in hand, but it didn't happen. So from our solid waste folks, they continue to push this forward. And there was a really good article that was on the CBC website with regards to this. This is a saving of $17 million a year to the to the waste system of our province. Nova Scotia has the highest waste cost per capita in Canada. We do a really good job, but it's still the highest cost. And we are paying for EPR already. So when you buy a box of Kraft Dinner, there's already 0.00057 cents in that price that is for disposal of that piece of cardboard. And provinces like Ontario, BC, and Alberta are already, their manufacturers are already doing this. So it's not going to affect small guys like our Mr. Pizza Man, our Pizza Man. He's not going to be affected by it because of income levels and the amount of garbage that he makes. But the ones that this affect are the Home Hardwares of the world, the Canadian Tires, the Costco's. And, but anyway, in Nova Scotia, we're paying for it, but we're not taking advantage of it.
I believe, Your Worship, at the meeting where they mentioned this, $16 million is what Nova Scotia's share would be. So we would get a share of that
Absolutely,
$16 million.
yeah.
If only they go, let's
Yeah.
go ahead and do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, it seems, anyway, okay,
So
sorry.
it remains, but it remains on the forefront.
Sure, okay.
And when we go to the NSFM meeting, we will be voting on these resolutions
Sure.
again.
Okay, my number one is, would be sustainability and infrastructure funding support.
Okay,
My number two would be cannabis funding.
okay,
My number three would be policing costs.
okay,
My number four would be municipal responsibilities.
okay,
And number five would be surplus schools.
okay. Moving on. Councillor Maxwell?
Yeah, my number one would be cannabis funding.
Okay,
My number two would be policing costs. Number three, sustainability and infrastructure funding support.
okay,
Number four, municipal responsibilities.
okay,
And number five, surplus schools.
okay. Councillor Gerard?
Number one, sustainability infrastructure. Number two, policing costs. Number three, cannabis funding. Number four, municipal responsibilities. And number five, surplus schools.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bolland?
Thank you. Number one is sustainability. Number two, cannabis. Number three, municipal responsibilities. Number four, policing costs. And number five, surplus schools.
Thank you. Councillor Pulsifer?
Number one, sustainability and infrastructure. Number two, municipal responsibilities. Number three, cannabis funding. Four, policing costs. And five, surplus schools.
Excellent, thank you. And for me, number one is infrastructure funding. Number two is municipal responsibility. Number three is cannabis. Number four, policing. And number five, surplus schools. Thank you. All right. So moving right along. As soon as I get my pages back in order. All right, we're moving on to Code of Conduct. So the Code of Conduct remains one of those things that it is also of concern by the province, and there is information about where they're going with it in the interim resolution report. We will hear more about it at the NSFM. But I guess what I want to say is that the town of Kentville has one of the most robust and forward-thinking codes of conduct. We have met and exceeded the requirements established by the JMAT committee, and we confirm our intent annually by signing our commitment to the code. Unfortunately, in Nova Scotia, municipalities through the MGA have no means of enforcing a code of conduct. We can sanction privately or publicly, which has little or no effect. We can take an individual off a committee, thereby increasing the workload of another councillor. The province has said that it would cost $450,000 per year to maintain an integrity commissioner. That money is not available. Therefore, it's up to us. And so far, we haven't done a very good job of it. Our behaviors have created a toxicity in this chamber that's unacceptable. A vote is not a win or a lose. It's a decision-making tool used to determine the best course of action for our town. Our disdain and disrespect is not against any one individual in this chamber. It's against our citizens. It's against our sworn duty. The members of this council do not have to like me, but the respect due this chair is not negotiable to our citizens. Members of this council obtain recognition to speak through the chair. Debate is conducted in this chamber by all members, and it is the issue that is being debated, not the personalities. The use of social media as a means of dealing with council business is out of hand. If you cannot publicly debate the issues in this chamber in a scheduled meeting in front of our citizens, then I would ask that you censor your public communications. We have 1 year left to continue the positive changes we have made and to start the meaningful conversations that our citizens want for Kentville. We create the environment for growth and prosperity. So I beg of you, this is our code of conduct, and if we really don't like it, then as a council, we should get rid of it. We should amend it. We should delete it. Or we need to take it to heart. So I open the floor. Councillor Gerard.
I would say if we're not going to enforce it, we get rid of it because it doesn't seem to be doing any good.
It's not enforceable.
I've read the code of conduct for the last 2 years. When you say it's not enforceable, to bring something.
Oh, okay, yes.
I mean, you know, things have gone on that should be brought to council, and not in an in-camera. My understanding of the code of conduct, and I've read the MGA code of conduct, is that, you know, the mayor is to address these things. If she can't get a solution, then it goes to the rest of council, and she gets help and guidance that way to say, we dock whatever we're allowed to dock, or whatever happens. But it's at least addressed. You know, when it's gone on for years now, and it doesn't appear, not to say that people haven't been brought into your office and reprimanded, but when it doesn't appear to be being addressed, for me, and I can only speak for me, it makes the code of conduct somewhat of a joke.
You're right.
Anyways, I would like to see more done and maybe more interaction from all of us to try and curb issues that come up from the code of conduct. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will take responsibility for my lack of bringing issues to this council chamber in an effort to deal with them outside the chamber. We can make that amendment, and if things the first time are not curbed or not changed, if attitudes don't change, then it will come to council. And the only tools we have are sanctions. We can't dock anybody's pay. That doesn't occur. That rule is still in the MGA because when it was written in those days, members of council were paid for each meeting they attended. They were not paid a salary. So therefore, if you docked somebody if you or didn't permit a person to attend a meeting, then they lost pay. That no longer occurs, so it's no longer an effective sanction. But as you say, I will take what you've said, and if I can't deal with it within the office, which I've attempted to do, then I will bring it to council. But it will go for everyone, not just the ones that we point at, and feel that because of our position that we're mighty. All right, thank you for your comments. Is there anything else on that matter? All right, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. I'll just make a comment around that, and I alluded to it when I addressed the motion about the public participation meeting for 118, and I talked a little bit about code of conduct, and I think it is important, and I think that the residents and the constituents of our town, they expect it of us. I think that we've made a tremendous difference in this town collectively, and we've done that with the assistance of our residents. And I just think we need to work closer together. And I know that, you know, good debate is always important in council, and we make good informed decision. And I think when we do that, we may not always agree on the decision, but we come out with a united front and come back to different issues. So I just would like to see more of that. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ballin.
Thank you. I mean, I concur with Deputy Mayor. I will say, though, that I've been here almost 15 years. I've never felt and seen so much tension as I have had amongst us in the last few weeks, even the last few days, due to one individual's social media slamming of us as a collective group. We've done a lot of good things here the last 4 years, and we're not done yet. But in the corporate world, you could certainly fire someone, but certainly the code of conduct, as Councillor Gerard said, it needs some teeth in it. I'm not sure what those teeth are, but it's unfortunate that often one bad apple makes us all bad. So, it's unfortunate. And I hope that can be turned around. Anyway, it's disappointing.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell.
Yeah, I echo the same comments.
Councillor Maxwell, please, can you address the chair before speaking?
Chair,
Thank you.
I echo the comments of everybody else here. I think I've spoken, pretty clearly today about how I felt, at least for the last year. And I just, I don't have a whole lot to say about a code of conduct that is unenforceable. But I will say that I disagree with the fact that our people are saying our council is toxic and we're, ineffective and, and making all of these, I think the rude comments and so on. I think we have a very good council, and I think we make a lot of really good decisions. It's just that sometimes the decisions aren't popular, and but I think they're all made with people that take a lot of time thinking about them, and going over the various aspects. And I think we have a very functional council, and I think we've done some really good things in this town. And yes, we've had some differences of opinions, and so on, but I think that it's unnecessary to slander people and bully people and harass people. There is such thing as freedom of speech, but sometimes that can be taken too far. And, that's just how I feel about, I just agree with everybody here. I don't have too much more to say about it.
Thank you. Councillor Pulsipher.
Thank you, Your Worship. I echo the comments of my fellow councillors as well. And I have to say that I have found it very troubling and appalling that we, as a council, have been branded, in the words of our fellow councillor. It's been disturbing. This is, very, this ongoing divisive social media circus that has gone on in the past few weeks that it's just, to me, it's really quite unacceptable, and it's disturbing. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bolland.
Again, thank you, Worship. I encourage my colleagues to read everybody's council report. I'm reading one here. There's a public document that says that this council's become...
Okay, no, please. We're not going there.
Okay.
The
Public
member
document,
has...
they can read it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That's the end of new business. We're moving on to public comments. The floor is now open to the public. Please state your name, address, and subject matter. You will have 10 minutes.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Snow
Good
and
evening.
Town Council members. My name is Janet Specht, and I wrote a letter. I'd like to read the letter. I'm not sure if that's appropriate for...
That's your
Okay.
your 10 minutes.
Okay, I don't think I'll take 10, but...
Okay.
Can't hear me? The mic's too short. I'm not too tall. The mic's too short. All else will speak up. Okay, I'll start over.
Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Stowe and council members. My name is Janet Specht. I'm a lifelong resident of the town of Kentville. I live at 23 Condon Avenue, and I've lived there for 23 years. As council knows, Condon Avenue has suffered from 3 flash floods this summer. First one on June 21st, again on August 30th, and then again Hurricane Dorian on September 7th. Because of my location, my house is hit first by the flash floods, and it's hit hard, with fast flowing water containing rocks, tree branches, and mud. And I'm talking large rocks, 12-foot tree branches, not just sticks and stones. After the June 21st flood, the town cleaned my yard along with the other impacted properties. After the June 30th flood, the town cleaned everyone's driveways and street, including my driveway. Throughout September, the town continued to clean properties, front yards, backyards, side yards, 100% yards, from the debris left behind. All properties but 23 Condon Avenue, my property. I asked Mayor Snow why my property was not cleaned, and she told me it was up to the CAO. I met with acting CAO Deb Kroll on September 17th, a day I will not easily forget. I was told by Deb, the town has stopped cleaning yards and no more will be done. 2, the town has spent enough money on Condon Avenue. And 3, the town is waiting to hear from its insurance provider. As this did not answer my question as to why just my property was not being cleaned, I continue to ask why just my property. I did not receive any additional explanation. So I'm here tonight to ask council 2 things. Why my property is singled out from all other properties and not being cleaned. 2, I request council approve having town crew come back, clean my property as soon as possible. I just want to be treated like all other properties on Condon Avenue, Park Street, and Miller Avenue, impacted by the 3 flash floods. In addition, while I'm addressing council tonight, I'd like to ask the town to please consider addressing the speed of water exiting the stream onto Condon Avenue. While I'm extremely appreciative of the new culvert infrastructure project, I think it's a stopgap measure. The source of the problem is the volume and speed of water, and it must be slowed down to ensure the new infrastructure can handle the water. So this leads to my next point. Condon Avenue residents are not protected from future flash floods. Winter is quickly approaching, and freezing and thawing will cause excess water in the stream. I request that the cement barriers placed on Condon by the town after the August 30th flood and before Dorian remain in front of my house during the winter months and until measures are put in place to slow down the water. Thank you for your time tonight, and please let me know if you have any questions. I have documented all events and correspondence since June. I have photographs and videos if anyone would like to review them. One last comment. The previous CAO, Public Works, and Park and Recreation crews have been extremely considerate, cooperative, and hardworking throughout these events. I want to publicly thank them for their service. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm not sure what the process is here. Are there questions able to be asked, or?
Questions by council, but
Coun-
not questions from the
Yes,
presenter.
so council
Yes,
can ask
exactly.
you questions specifically about what you have presented.
Okay.
But I'm going to caution council that this still remains insurance, this still remains under the purview of operations, so you may ask questions with regards to the presentation that Janet has made, so.
And if I can emphasize, it's not an opportunity for comments by council. So if you have questions of clarification that might help council understand anything that's not understood by the presentation, then ask those questions.
Okay, so.
Otherwise, we will have her letter.
So I should leave that?
Yes, please,
Okay.
please,
With
and
Jennifer?
yes, please.
Okay.
And we'll have it, put in as part of the document of this meeting, Janet.
I'm sorry.
It will become part of the public document of this
Okay.
meeting, and
Okay.
that way it's on the record, and we will deal with that matter.
And deal with my questions?
Your questions will be dealt with through operations, not through this meeting here at this moment in time.
Through town operations?
That's
Is
correct.
that-
That's correct. But if council has any, and I noticed the deputy mayor has a question directly for you with regards to the event
Okay,
and your reporting.
thank you.
Deputy mayor, please.
Thank you, Janet, for presenting that tonight. You talk about slowing down the water. Where exactly do you mean? What exactly are you referring to?
Okay.
I just don't.
At the end of Condon Avenue, there's a stream.
Mm-hmm.
So I've lived there 23 years. It's a stream about this wide,
Mm-hmm.
but during heavy rainfalls,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes this huge flowing river.
Okay.
So it's across the road from where I live,
Yes,
and the road is on an angle like
Mhm.
this.
Okay.
So the stream's here.
okay.
I know Facebook can't see this, but
No, that's,
so the water comes here and it comes into my driveway, hits the side of my house and up over my front
okay,
veranda,
okay,
and then down to the next neighbors, out to the street, and down to the Gerard apartment building,
okay,
and
okay.
onto Park Street.
All right, thank you. Just
You're
want a
welcome.
clarification around that.
Councillor Pulsifer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for your letter
Okay.
informing us of your difficulties. I just had a question. Is this the first year that you've had this severe runoff or water coming into, onto your property from above or wherever it comes from,
Yeah.
to this
In-
extent?
In 2015, we did have flooding. It wasn't as bad as what we've experienced this summer, and I did present a letter. I had people on the town sign the letter. I presented it to the engineering department with the town. So there was one in 2015, and there have been 3 in the last 3 months, June, August, and September. So in 23 years, 4 in total, that were significant enough for me
Mhm.
to speak up.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any further questions? Councillor Bolland.
Thank you, Worship, and good presentation. Is there a clear definitive answer to her question? Would that be forthcoming to her?
It will be, but not from this meeting.
Could I ask a question on that? Oh, sorry.
Councillor Maxwell has,
Yes, Your Honor, I'm wondering if we might add this to an in-camera session, either at this meeting or at our next meeting, so that we could discuss this letter.
yes.
Thank you.
You have a question, Janet?
Yes. So I'm curious when I may hear back on my questions, timelines, timeframe?
I don't have an answer for you on that. We are not making a decision here tonight on it.
Right.
This is an operational matter, and we push it to operations. We get a report, information, and then we can discuss and move forward from there. So I can't tell you.
I will follow up
A
with
date.
operations. then.
Yes, please do. Please do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Snow and council.
Thank you. Is there any further business? There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned. A motion to adjourn? I think that was Craig and Eric. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you.